Secretary Walsh, welcome to the committee. I look forward to your testimony today and the chance to talk about the department's budget request for the coming year. You know, the past 18 months have been challenging for our country. The COVID-19 pandemic put unprecedented strain on the economy, on its workforce, and on families who suddenly were dealing with issues they hadn't expected to deal with and families hadn't dealt with in the same way before. Prior to the COVID-19 public health emergency declaration, the unemployment rate was 3.5%. That was the lowest since the late 1960s. I think you have to assume from that some of the things that we're doing that were different were making a difference. But at the height of the pandemic, in April of 2020, our unemployment rate exceeded 14%. While we've made great strides in bringing our unemployment rate back down since that point, I'm concerned we won't reach the 3.5% pre-pandemic number due to, frankly, some misguided federal policies. Specifically, the additional $300 in federal supplemental unemployment payments have unintentionally incentivized unemployed individuals to remain exactly that, unemployed. In May of this year, the average weekly unemployment check in the country was $318. That's a bigger check than a lot of people had taken home before, and you didn't have the expenses of going to work. And so, frankly, a lot of people did not go to work. While businesses in America have been searching for workers, this benefit has really misaligned the workforce needs across the nation. In Missouri recently, I continue to see help wanted signs all across the state. In my hometown of Springfield, these help wanted signs often included hiring bonuses and pay well above the $10.30 minimum wage in our state. Missouri, like many states across the country, has decided to end the federal supplemental payment to increase the level of participation in the economy. I believe that's beginning to work, but I also believe it's now time for Congress to recognize the importance of balancing, providing a safety net when you need it, and ensuring that our labor needs are met. We need to create an environment for Americans to thrive where people want to go back to work, where they're encouraged to go back to work, and where people who can't go back to work have a basic unemployment benefit. However, I'm concerned that some of the components of the department's budget request, and particularly some of the increases, don't consider this or the very real needs of local communities and the needs for a workforce to be more actively engaged. Really, too much of this budget is driven by the politics of the administration. Now, every administration should and has every reason to make some changes. I think this budget makes way too many changes in way too short a time. For example, instead of focusing funding on flexible workforce training determined by states to meet their own unique employment needs, the administration's tying training funds in many, many cases to green jobs. I'm not opposed to green jobs. I'm just opposed to the federal government deciding how states approach the needs they have right now. According to the analysis of the U.S. Energy and Employment Report and the Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics, when compared to jobs in fossil fuels, jobs in solar and wind power employ a larger share of individuals in their construction rather than more permanent roles as plant managers and other jobs. These jobs don't pay enough and are unionized at lower rates. Mr. Secretary, I agree with you, and we've talked about this, that we really need to target funding to the workforce of the future. However, I think it's unlikely that the federal government alone will be able to figure out what that workforce of the future should look like, and we need to have more involvement from states, communities, and local economies. Now, we're going to disagree on some things in this budget, but I'm encouraged to see things we are going to agree on. For instance, the increase in the apprenticeship program. I think this has been and needs to continue to be a successful tool to allow workers to get paid while they train, and frankly, to find out as early as possible if what they think they want to do isn't meeting their expectations, so they don't get way too far down a line before they realize this is not what I want to do. This budget supports programs that are targeted to the hardest hit parts of the country. For instance, the Appalachian and the lower Mississippi Delta regions have challenges there, and I think your budget does what it needs to begin to allow us to look at those challenges. There's support here for veterans transitioning to civilian workforce, one of the key priorities of this committee, and I think of this Congress. Mr. Secretary, we're in a challenging environment. It's going to be a difficult year. I believe we can work toward consensus with the department's budget. But frankly, as I've said at our other budget hearings this year, I think this can only be achieved by more parity between the defense and non-defense funding. The president's budget request didn't achieve that goal. However, I remain confident that the final appropriations bill will. And Mr. Secretary, I'm glad that you're planning to be in St. Louis tomorrow. I know we were told yesterday a couple of the things you'd be talking about. One, promoting vaccines, and the other, the Job Corps. On the vaccine front, I was talking about this at our leadership stakeout yesterday. I've talked about it, I think, in every event I've been in Missouri since we started the warp speed effort to try to get these vaccines available more quickly. Vaccines are an absolutely necessary part of us creating an environment where this virus can't continue to replicate itself and change in new ways, and the variants are going to be the future enemy. Vaccine is the answer to those variants. On Job Corps, Senator Murray and I and the committee have worked together the last 6 years to increase that funding. I know those programs continue to be programs that we can do more with and can look for reforms in. And I look forward to your leadership in that area. So again, thank you for your time here today. I look forward to working together as we try to be sure that Americans' working families have the opportunities they need and that our economy continues to grow.